Hello horror heads and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host Keegan Hughes, and today we have a lovely pile of extra depraved movies for your viewing pleasure. Or displeasure. Yes indeed, it's time to list the top 5 disgusting horror movies that will change you. I've been watching you and it's definitely time for a change. You gotta switch things up, homie. Variety is the spice of life. Speaking of changing things up, if you're looking for a wicked change in your mobile entertainment, look no further than this message from today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. If you're looking for an RPG with a little more fortitude, this is the game for you. Sporting some dark, realistic, and all-around epic graphics and a whole bunch of gnarly characters, this is the game everyone's talking about. What I like about the game is all the different champions there are to choose from. Wicked character design is a big pull for me when playing any game. Personally, Elhain and Knight Revenant are my favorites. You can upgrade your characters in the tavern or even sacrifice some champions to power up your favorites. Battle other players in the PvP arena or head to the single player campaign to gain some experience. If you're really tough, you can head into the dungeon where 10 different bosses await. And if you're lucky, you might come away with some rare artifacts. Now you can play Raid on both mobile and desktop. The game is cross-device, so you can take your exploits anywhere you'd like and also play in the comfort of your own rolly chair at home. Those PC graphics really step it up a notch, eh? If you're quick on the draw, you can find me in-game, and if you're lucky, maybe you can join my clan. So what are you waiting for? Go to the video description, click on these special links, and if you're a new player, you can grab 100,000 silver, 50 gems, 1 energy refill, and 1 free champion. Executioner. All this treasure will be waiting for you here. Good luck, and I'll see you there. These rewards are only available for the next 30 days, so be quick. Alrighty, let's get to the list. Kicking us off at number 5, the Human Centipede. Oh boy. Yeah. I'm sure you've all seen this already or at least heard of it, but what is now a pop culture phenomenon / running joke was once a shocking piece of horror cinema. We follow a German surgeon who decides to kidnap 3 people and stitch them together, mouth to butt. The idea is that one person will eat food and it'll pass through them, and then the processed food will then be fed to the next in line. So why would a surgeon think that this is a viable strategy? Who knows? What I do know is that it is a filthy film that had a huge impact on the horror movie scene at the time. The director actually kept the mouth to butt part hidden from investors and backers, opting to only share the stitching people together bits, which makes sense as the idea was pretty likely to hurt the film's viability. The true nature wasn't revealed until the entire film was complete, and if the director knew this all along, it's pretty easy to see how gross the idea is. The movie itself plays out like a pretty standard horror film and isn't all that scary, but the idea behind it is definitely extra raunchy. It even inspired 2 sequels, each more insane than the one that came before. However, I stick by my rating of the first as number 1. Firstly, it was the most original, and it caused the most uproar. And second, the 2 sequels were just reactions to the first, attempts to one-up the insane idea for an even crazier experience. In doing so, they became more like jokes than anything else, even if they did amp up the disturbing elements to 11. The Human Centipede is set up perfectly to disturb, with a beginning loaded with cliches to lull the audience, a quick chance at escape, and the procedure itself. The front of the centipede can't speak English and therefore nobody can communicate. The guy at the front also just opts to scream and cry the whole time. The main character is stuck in the middle, unable to move freely, speak, eat, or even rest. The centipede is treated like a pet with a weird, shameless affection. Again, this movie's been memed on a million times, but it is certainly hard to forget. I clearly remember where I was, who I was with, and even what I was eating when I first saw this movie at the tender age of 14. My parents' basement, my best friend, granola bars, and off-brand Coca-Cola. It was like grocery store brand, I forget what it was called. Needless to say, I wasn't eating and drinking much once it started. Coming in at number 4, Necronomicon, Book of the Dead. Brian Yuzna is back with more Lovecraftian action. Well, partially. He played a hand in the creation of the 3-part horror anthology with other shorts by Christoph Gans and Shusuke Kaneko. The film is bookended by H.P. Lovecraft himself traveling to read the Necronomicon at a monastery run by secretive monks. While he reads, different stories play for our entertainment, all based on stories by Lovecraft. The first one is based on the rats in the walls and shows us 2 generations of men trying to revive their loved ones using the Necronomicon. Of course, the folks that come back to life are abominations, and the resurrectors are severely punished. Next is The Cold, based on Cool Air. My favorite of the trio, this focuses on a doctor who seduces a younger woman with the power of immortality through sheer cold. He kills her stepfather and performs gruesome experiments on the corpse. Later on, it's revealed that the woman is pregnant with his eternally unborn child and must subsist on spinal fluid. Do you want to lend her some of yours? Lastly, we're treated to Whispers, based on the Whisperer in The Darkness. A pregnant cop is captured by the Butcher, sees her husband killed, and also has her fetal child stole by demon bats. Cosmic horror is tough to pull off in filmic form, but the effects in this movie are worth the price of admission, no doubt. Gross, slimy, gory, abominable, and hellish, it's no wonder that Tom Savini supervised the effects. Screaming Mad George had a hand in them as well. The tentacled beasts might stick around in your brain for a little while. Barreling through at number 3, we've got The Devil's Rejects. Rob Zombie does a great job making exactly 0 of his characters likable in this depraved, violent romp. That doesn't make it a bad movie, but it makes it one that's hard to watch. Thankfully, he makes up for this with plenty of killer style and country fried music. The first sequel to House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects picks off where it left off. The Firefly family being a bunch of irredeemable, murderous lunatics. Following an insane shootout led by revenge-fueled Sheriff John Quincy Wydell, it turns into a demented road movie of sorts, with the last remaining Fireflies traveling the countryside while avoiding the law and slicing and dicing their way through a smattering of new victims. This is no light-hearted traveling circus though. The killing in this movie is sadistic and cruel. The whole thing reeks of sadism and malice, which for some is a plus. For others, it might be upsetting and weariness inducing. Even if you think the Fireflies have learned a valuable lesson from receiving their comeuppance from the sheriff, you're quickly reminded that they'll never change by Lynyrd Skynyrd. I am a firm believer in the theory that the world is divided into 2 groups, those who love Rob Zombie's Firefly series and those who think it's a little much. Folks on either side will have a small chance of agreeing on horror entertainment. Slicing his way in at number 2, we've got Ichi the Killer. Just about everything in this movie exudes insane, over-the-top violence or weirdly sexual tones. Sometimes it's cartoonish, which makes sense given the manga it was based on, and sometimes it's visceral and horrifying. It's a fascinating balance to strike, plus I'm not sure if balance is a good word. Ichi the Killer often flies off the rails in insane and incredible ways. We begin on a shot of a man savagely beating a woman, and the titular Ichi getting off to it, Peeping Tom style. This is a good indication of what's to come, pun intended. Then we meet Kakihara, the sort of mirror image of Ichi. Where Ichi is meek and needs to be encouraged to go on killing sprees, Kakihara actively enjoys dishing out pain and receiving it in equal measures. Most of the movie is Kakihara looking for both the person who killed his master and for Ichi, torturing sources of information along the way. The whole movie revels in creative torture, whether it's hanging someone with hooks through their skin or slicing faces off wholesale. The violence is excessive, sometimes amusing, sometimes disgusting. Like The Devil's Rejects, the main characters are totally unredeemable. They may be charismatic and interesting, but there's a 0% chance of anyone labeling them good people. These are things that director Takashi Miike wants to foreground: the consumption of violence in media and its implications, machismo, braggadocio, violent sexuality, and more. If you walk in unprepared, it's gonna be a wild ride. And finally at number 1, Antichrist. Anything by Lars von Trier is going to provoke, but Antichrist is a stellar standout horror film that is extremely hard to watch. He began writing it while hospitalized for a deep depressive episode, conceiving it as a horror film as that would allow for some very, very strange images. It's inspired by Tarkovsky, if that tells you anything. We're introduced to a couple reeling from the death of their young son. They decide to retreat to the forest where the man starts having disturbing visions in nature, while the woman becomes increasingly violent and sadomasochistic. Prepare yourself for some disturbing images, including but not limited to dozens of swollen ticks, a doe with a stillborn calf hanging out, blood flowing from places that blood should not flow from, the drilling of a metal bolt through one's leg, the removal of a particular mound of nerves using scissors, and more. This is a film full of dark, bleak, dismal imagery of raw, unforgiving nature. Von Trier found inspiration in the dual identity of nature itself, portrayed as peaceful and romantic, but also as a place of great pain and suffering as different species try to kill and eat each other. Full of sex, evil, death, religion, and more, this is a movie that will stir things in you that you may have preferred unstirred. And there you have it. 5 disturbing, disgusting movies, 5 chances to have your brain assaulted. Good luck out there. Are there any that should have made the list? How many of these have you seen? What's the most disgusting movie you've ever watched? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's have a look at some of your more malicious ones from top 5 scary horror movies that are illegal. Part 5. Beezert1225 says Tom Savini is one talented makeup artist. It must be so cool to have worked on such iconic movies. Damn straight. I recently watched that new documentary about him, Smoke and Mirrors. Highly recommend. Prep for It says, I was an extra in The Bunny Game, and no, I do not include that film on my CV. Yeah, no, that's one you might want to keep with friends and family. Red Nightshed says, Keegan, let's form a band called the Video Nasties. Lucy can sing, I'll play drum and bass. What would you play? I could fill all sorts of roles. You know, I could rip some keys, maybe play a little guitar, bust out the saxophone, you name it. Michael Riley says, haven't seen any of these and don't want to. Thanks for warning me. No worries, they're definitely not for everyone, especially if you're the kind of person who likes to look your parents in the eye when you talk to them. And Rookie Agent 47 says, color me intrigued. I could only afford the 12 pack of markers and intrigued wasn't included. I'm sorry. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks again to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring today's video. Before I head out and hop legs first into a wood chipper, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more scary stuff. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.